We've been doing this for a long time now. Help them start to rebuild it.
All right, so I drove out to Torrance, California. If people are watching this, clearly I'm not at home in my dining table. I drove out to meet with a very special person, a special guest. We have Mr. Dan Mendoza of Muscle Icon. Welcome, man.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Thank you. I'm very grateful that you were open to being on the podcast. When you reached out to me, I was kind of taken back. I felt a lot of pressure, if anything.
Yeah.
Only for one reason, because I know I've known, from our associates and stuff, how hard you work and the type of company you're building. If you've seen any episode of the podcast, it's about highlighting stories. It's about spreading messages.
I have, yeah.
Oh, perfect. And with that, I think people see Muscle Icon as like the company, the brand. They see the healthy people, the fit bodybuilders. I know for sure there's so much beneath that surface, and I think it speaks to a lot of the direction that you have for Muscle Icon. So if you don't mind, a little bit about yourself before we kind of dive in here.
Sure, yeah. So I've kind of an international background. I was born in Venezuela and Caracas, and then moved to the UK for 6 years. And then I basically grew up in New York. And then after college, I kind of felt like in New York where I grew up, you had a couple options. One was going to the city and finding a city job, or it was living in the town you grew up in, or somewhere local. And I felt like I was just going to get stuck in New York and be like a towny person in this small town. I think graduating high school class was like 100 kids. So wow. So I just decided to make the move at 22 after college to move to California. And so I just moved out here by myself. I didn't really know anybody, and I made a point to get a job. I was a personal trainer for 5 years at that point. And I made a point to get a job at the biggest gym I could find, which is this LA Fitness in Torrance. Started training people there. And then my main goal was to meet a lot of people, to meet as many people as I could, say hello to as many people as I could. Yeah. And then later on down the line, fast forward, 6-7 years later, I got into, I had been competing in bodybuilding for men's physique for a few years at that point. And I think it was in 2018, I was prepping for a show in Venice Beach, and I have all these training clients, and I kept thinking to myself, man, this is the ultimate motivation that I've got right now. I got nothing that's getting in my way. And you give a lot of credit to some of these people coming into the gym every day that just have this home office kind of life, family life, but it's a lot different than competing for a goal like the stage where you're going to get judged. So keep having that in mind and knowing that I'm getting a judge. I'm thinking, man, it'd be great if this was accepted by more people, because it's a very niche sport, bodybuilding, sure. So that always came to mind, man. It'd be great if I could get, or if I have more clients that would be open to maybe even not competing on stage, but competing for a goal like this, or maybe attaining this kind of lifestyle where they're waking up a certain time every day. They have a regimen, routine, and it's just as important as like brushing your teeth, Yep. Just getting to the gym, eating scheduled meals. I just felt so good. And so I decided to come up with my own competition based off of how many people that I knew and the network I had built. I had all these people that could bring something to the table. So I had somebody who, one of my clients had like he owns like the largest 3D printer on the West Coast. Someone else introduced me to, these famous bodybuilders. I knew some pros at the time. Someone knew Mike O'Hearn that, I got introduced to. And so I thought of that scene in Dodgeball. Remember that movie Dodgeball with Vince Vaughn? I thought of that scene, and in the beginning of that movie, there's this preliminary match where they have it in like an auditorium, and I was thinking to myself, man, hearing some of these athletes backstage, thinking, there's definitely some complaints, I guess you could say, or things that athletes want changed, but bodybuilding is so much want to say it's a monopolized sport, but there's certain federations that have a stronghold on athletes in terms of where they can compete. There's really only a few avenues out there. It's not publicized on TV, you know. Sure. It's so. Anyway, I thought to myself, man, I'm an athlete. I'm competing at this show coming up. If there was some prize money, or if I can get a T-shirt, or you know, I was thinking of all these things that are not very difficult to implement. Yeah. You know, what if we hosted a show and it was even like that, you know, preliminary match in dodgeball where they're just in that high school auditorium, you know, and we put up $1,000, said best physique wins, you know.
Something as simple as that. Yeah.
Yeah. We get some judges that have competed that know what they're talking about. You know, why not? But then, you know, so I started pursuing that path, and competing in that 2018 show, I brought my own camera crew, and we filmed like a little infomercial for the first show. So that me competing in that show was really to get my own advertising for the first show, because in starting the Instagram page, I realized I didn't have any stage content that I could use that was mine, because I hadn't had a show yet. So I can't pull pictures from the other competitions, you know, page, or even the other athletes that are competed out there, because those are, even if they're my friends, because those technically belong to that federation or that, you know, photographer, right? So, so that was my first bit of marketing, and then going forward, the whole idea was to be able to bring a show that kind of filled all these little holes that athletes were complaining about. The judging seems a little biased, or you know, there's these hidden fees. It's, you know, another example was, you know, there's really nothing for these athletes financially until they earn their pro card, or unless they're like number one in the world, you know. So it gave me something to pursue. And I remember being at one show where I was in the audience, and I just started looking around. I feel like I've always had this kind of perspective of, man, I wonder how much this venue costs. I wonder how much it costs to get those backdrops right there, or like put those little plants on stage, you know. And that kind of got me going. Now, I thought it was going to be a lot less expensive when I first started. I kind of tallied up what I thought was going to be my total cost, and I was way off. You know, it was a lot more expensive. But once I kind of dove into it, I was all in. And there's a lot I learned the first year. And the first major thing that I realized is, if you're going to come up with the show, it's got to be good. And it's got to be something that athletes can trust. You know, you're really asking them to dedicate 6 months, a lot of times, of their lives to prepping for a show that you want to look good and should be worth their money and their time, right? True. And it's got to be something that I would want to compete on too. Yeah. You know, and so that motivated me to try to keep elevating what we're doing, keep going. And I've always done things with the athlete in mind. You know, because I was once an athlete. I've competed in multiple shows, and I know how difficult that lifestyle can be. And if I'm going to bring something to the table like this, you know, I want it to be at least better than some of the shows out there that I saw people complaining about, you know. Yeah. So we threw out the whole high school auditorium idea, and got a ballroom at this racket club. It's actually one we're right now.
Yeah, we're actually here in the first place. Yeah.
And it went great. You know, we had a good friend of mine, Tamara Day. She's a social media influencer that's competed in the past, and her parents have competed, and she left the sport because she didn't like the way things are going. Very educated on the sport. Mike O'Hearn, who's you know, Mr. Universe, super famous. And then we had another gentleman who was Mr. Orange County and competed in multiple shows. So we had like a good amount of experience on the judging panel to give these guys like a fair, you know, judging. And first year, leading up to that first show, I think about 2 months out, I only had like 2 or 3 signups, you know?
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so the first thing I learned, because I pitched this to a lot of people, and what I learned is first off, you really need to get these coaches convinced that this is a show for their athlete to jump into. And unfortunately, there's this kind of mafia mentality in place, which I don't really think is what most people think it is now that I'm looking at things from a promoter perspective, where a lot of coaches have it in their mind that if their athlete competes in another show that's not sanctioned by this federation that they're trying to do well in, that their athlete may not go as far, or because it's a very subjective sport. The judges are kind of deciding. It's not like so-and-so won by 2 points in the basketball game.
There's no clear point winner.
Right, yeah.
Sure.
You could think someone deserves a win and the judges will pick somebody else, and it's just kind of up to them. So that was one kind of hurdle to get over is, how do I, in this industry where there's kind of some tension or this wall put up, of I'm only with this federation, I'm only with that. To me, if someone walks in like an unknown athlete and looks the best, and they should have exactly the same amount of chance of winning as somebody else that the federation knows really well, Sure. And that was also one of the complaints I was seeing backstage. It's like so-and-so has been on this stage numerous times, they know him, and you'd see other athletes that look incredible, arguably better than the top 5 that's up there, and they don't get the same kind of look or the same kind of, judging attention.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was one thing, and the other thing, having a brand new show, you need people to be able to trust that brand image and be able to trust that event. And I need people to trust that people need to know it's actually going to happen,
Sure.
Me, 3 athletes 2 months out, I could have decided we don't have enough athletes to cover the show, so I'm just going to cancel it. Mm-hmm. Wasn't willing to do that. My thought was, worst case scenario, we throw a big party. We've got guest posers, we've got Mr. California is going to be here, we've got all these people that are showing up. We'll throw a huge party. We're great at that. We've thrown tons of parties in the past. And then, so I just kind of held faith. The day of the show, we had 12 athletes, enough for each category to have some kind of competition, which is great. We ended up with 3 winners. Nice. And that was our marketing basically for the next show that we were going to host. And then ideas that came from that. Sponsorship for the athletes, giving them an opportunity to earn some income through our brand. What other opportunities can we give these guys? We gave everyone T-shirts. Yeah. We had I think it was Mother's Day, the day of the first show. We had handed out. Someone donated flowers. We handed out flowers to all the moms in the crowd. Nice. We had food for everybody. People got to take photos of Mike, and we had I think we had a photo booth here for people to take photos with, vendors everywhere. So, and then I'm a violinist as well. So I did a live performance with our guest poser, and I did like a violin accompaniment to his guest posing routine, which is really cool.
Wow. Okay.
So anyway, it's this company is definitely a kind of a family started business. My wife's super involved. Nice. She's amazing with all this. My brother played electric guitar on the first show. And it's really a community that we're trying to build where people feel like they can be a part of something and that this is something that can lead to other opportunities within this network that we're building. And, so it's really like a big family and community.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
I think people can see that.
Yeah, it's not a clear path like it would be for like a supplement company necessarily, even though there's other competition. It's, you might have an athlete that's like, oh, I'll try the supplement, and they'll try it out. But not everyone is going to say that competes that's really, into this is going to say, oh, let me try and compete in this show. Not everyone's going to say that. They're going to think the mindset is, I need to win my pro card, and in order to do it, I need to be laser focused into this one or two or other shows, Sure. So what I want to do is show people that, bodybuilding can only take you so far, and it is very competitive and very niche. Only a few handful of athletes are really going to make it to that top place. Not to say that you shouldn't try. Of course. I think if that's the path you want to take, it's great, and we support anybody that wants to do that. But I also want to show people that it shouldn't always be about the stage, because I got wrapped up in it where I was super hyper focused on my physique. I was super hyper focused on winning, and I realized it was everything that taught me, everything I was taught leading up to the stage, everything I learned about myself leading up to the stage, which really stuck with me more long term. And it wasn't about the trophy necessarily. I still got some of those trophies on my, the mantle in our house, but the real trophy for me was what I was able to transfer into real life, which was the discipline I learned from this, being able to, handle problems under pressure, being able to grow with a schedule, and all those things transfer over into everyday life. And so, and the opportunities for growth really ended up happening off stage as much as on stage, So I think, because when I first started competing, my thought was, I'm gonna compete, get on stage, I'm gonna look great, I'm gonna get a sponsor, I'm maybe trying to land a cover, and then, I think I heard of some athlete getting like 10 grand a month from some sponsorship. So I was like, I'll just get like 3 of those and I'll be good to go, But it doesn't happen like that in this sport, unfortunately. When someone turns pro in the NFL, you're making, you got a $100 million contract maybe, or whatever. You've got all these sponsorships, people put you on stuff. There's this huge red carpet kind of rolled out, it seems like.
Right away, yeah.
Right away, yeah, right from the draft, But in bodybuilding, it's just not like that. Athletes need to be able to create opportunities for themselves with the things that they gain. And, any athlete can tell you that, once you step on stage, you got those stage photos, you post them up a few times, like after a while, the sad thing is no one cares as much as you will. They don't. Even the show that I created, I was like, man, this is going to cause like this huge wave of like people coming towards us, but people congratulate you. They're happy that you did it, but it's, you really have to learn how to navigate through this, media or social media monster, which is Instagram and Facebook, and try to stand out somehow, and so it's things that come to mind. What kind of value can we offer people through what we're posting up or what we're offering at the shows? And then athletes kind of, in my opinion, need to think the same way. Okay, I've got this title. I looked great. What do I do now? Do I do another show? Do I do coaching? So that's what we really want to try to help athletes with is what can you do with this thing you've built to try and make something out of it, because bodybuilding's a tough industry to make money in. It's really difficult.
Yeah. And I just learned this actually. Talking to, he's basically my brother-in-law. He won this year, and this is kind of how I caught wind of Muscle Icon, and this is how I started seeing it for the first time. I was like, okay, well, to me at that time it was like another fitness company. Mm-hmm. You watch YouTube, you see, like, you hear about things like Olympia, whatever it is, and I see Muscle Icon, like, all right, like, John Anthony won, it's cool, like, I'm looking at the merch, and then I started noticing that what you were posting wasn't necessarily just the trophies, the glitz and glamour of it. You started posting, a lot of your posts are about the hard work that goes behind the scenes before you step on stage. What was it like? What was that journey like? And I think that speaks more to people nowadays, especially those that like me that don't know the industry as much. I didn't realize it was there's some like politics behind the scenes, and different federations control winners, and that, I would say, that's every industry, and that's the tough part, where you have someone like you who's trying to take the experience of what it was like to be an athlete and to try to change that, this whatever painting they've made already, to try to draw your own path for your athletes.
Right.
And what I was surprised to hear that it's more than just the prize money that you get if you win a Muscle Icon show. Yeah. You get not only sponsorships, but you get the social media management, marketing, things like that behind it.
Yeah. And a small company. We're not some giant federations with, tens of millions of dollars behind us.
Yeah.
I was a personal trainer. I saved up as much money as I could to start my first show and start this brand. And, in that path of being an entrepreneur, like I've learned a lot of things, but as this thing grows, we want to be able to offer more people more resources that we have, so this is definitely something that will grow and it has value based on the people that are a part of it. And I always think, like, when people ask what Muscle Icon is, like, when we had that show, it was this. Everybody in this room that bought a ticket, that liked a post, that commented on our page, you guys are all, contributing something, that community. That's what Muscle Icon is. It's a movement, and it's not just a show.
Yeah.
I don't want to put so much emphasis on winning the show. I get you want to win. It's great. And it's, there's a lot that can go into it, but for me, I noticed how inspired other people got when someone in their gym was competing. To me, that's what meant so much about the sport, is what the impact it had on so many other people. And sure enough, a lot of people that compete on stage were inspired to compete by somebody else that did it, and they saw someone else get in that crazy shape. They're like, wow, they did it. I want to give it a shot.
Yeah.
So I think first and foremost, competing for yourself, and because it's something you want to do, is what, where that whole thing should start. And like I said, there's other people that get into it for a different reason. They've got something really special. They want to win the world championship title. I think that's great. Again, this is not like one path is better than the other, but with Muscle Icon, I really feel like the growth of this and where this ends up being will be founded on this belief that athletes are more than just muscle. They offer a lot more value to the world and to other people in their community than just winning the show. And again, not to take away from the hard work it takes or the title itself. I'm proud of all these guys that won. They looked incredible, and they're all amazing people, which is the best part about it.
Yeah.
But I love pushing that message where, you won the show. Let's not stop there. Let's take it a little further. Let's see how we can change other people's perspective about what bodybuilding is, about, what hard work is, what dedication is, and how to inspire more people to make those positive changes in their lives. And all these athletes that won the show, they all inspire positive people to make those changes,
True.
that make their lives better. And so to me, that means so much. And, I'm not, I didn't start this thing to bash anybody or to be the Coke and Pepsi marketing battle. That's not really what I'm in this for. I'm really in this because I was an athlete, I competed. I want to offer as much as I can to the athletes that competed at our show. I want to make them feel at home when they step on our stage. And I want to make the athletes out there feel like they are now in the presence of more opportunity, more resources, more tools to grow themselves and their brand and what they want to do. And whatever path anyone takes that competes with us, we always support the athlete and improving that environment. So I'd like to welcome anybody that would like to contribute, that has an opinion on things that need to be different. I am open to hearing from everybody. I want this to be our show, not just my show or my company's show, and again, it's not just the stage that we can build with,
Yeah, you talking about it right now, it does, I'll be honest with you, it does resonate that it's more than just the win. It's more than, adding it to your credentials or resume or getting a pro card. I definitely see the highlight on you taking care of your athletes more than just giving them that trophy. And like you said, when the dust settles or when the confetti settles, it's like, what's next?
Right.
And it gives them a path forward, not just to another show, not just to compete again, or doesn't just qualify them to compete in another thing. It's more of who did you become, and here are the resources that you have available for you.
Right.
And then in order for your athletes to spread that message.
Right. And again, we don't have the same resources that like the UFC does or ESPN or something like that. But
yeah.
but
Not yet,
not right. Yeah, not yet. But it's not that difficult to show someone a path that they can take, you know. And even with the limited resources that we had when we started, we're still able to like make people feel like they can make a difference, and they're more valuable than at some of the other shows I competed at.
Yeah,
you know?
well, and that's the best thing about that is that you value the work that someone has put in to get to that stage.
Right.
Because I mean, yeah, like you said, you mentioned other shows and other competitions happen, and then if you didn't win, it's kind of like, all right, well, you know, you did good. Good luck next time. It's more of, hey, every piece of hard work that everybody put in here is the win already, and I think it capitalizes on that, the journey, rather than like who won. Right.
Right.
And I definitely noticed that it's about the reality of it. It's tough, and I knowing my cousin here, like I mean, you talking about it, people that I've followed to see the journey of that, the elite level of conditioning that people push themselves to get to. It's not something that we can just be like, all right, like you didn't win though, it's all right.
Right.
The value that they get from it, the discipline, the accomplishment in life, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
And again, this is not, everything I'm saying, it's not by, I know I'm focusing on offstage stuff, it's not by any means to minimize the people that do win, the title, the competitiveness leading to the stage.
It's part of it too, yeah.
I definitely am not trying to minimize that. It's incredibly important, and being competitive is what it's all about. You have to be very competitive, and you have to be willing to do things that most people won't do. But that being said, there's this other part of competing that you want to be aware of that is going to provide more of a long-term path for you, where, because when I competed, it was like, okay, what am I going to do now? There was so much buildup leading up to that first show, and then it happened, and then it was over, and then I didn't really know what to do next.
Yeah, wow.
I was like, do I sign up for another show? Like after the first few weeks, my clients were kind of over it. They were like, all right, we get it. You competed, and not, it's just kind of the reality of it. People will, and again, not to minimize it, but there has to be something more to this than just winning the show. And so I love the organizational side of trying to put on a show. It's very challenging. There's a lot of moving parts that go into it. I can see that, yeah. And I've had to adapt to a lot of things. And there's definitely things we need to improve and that we want to improve. But I'm really grateful for all the people that are around us that are a part of it. And John's one of those guys. He's just been incredible.
Yeah. What shows is that, it almost feels like the underdog story, like ironically the dodgeball story, right?
Yeah.
And because you're competing against, not just competing against, I don't want to say it like that, but you're going up against these big companies and federations and things like that. It's almost like, make room for us kind of thing. But what I really want to capitalize on is that you are sticking to the journey and the message of Muscle Icon is to put more value on these individuals. They're not just on stage competing against each other. They're competing against themselves more than anything else. And, what we see on stage is just like this beautiful package. But you value like, hey, who this individual is. And I think that's what I've seen from John. Like, after he won, like he talks to me all the time about how like the company takes care of him and how there's more projects and events coming up. And he's even realizing how much more that he didn't even imagine was going to happen is already opening up now. Opportunities. Right. That's what it's about.
Yeah, and I think for athletes that were in my position where they don't really know what's going to happen after or what to do next, that's something that stuck in mind with me. I would have paid someone to sponsor me when I was in my early 20s competing, just to say I have a sponsor. I mean, that probably is going to translate to some people as like, well, this guy wasn't really good, but which I was never a top tier athlete or anything in the bodybuilding world, but I did feel like in terms of offering some kind of guidance or some kind of more for these athletes when they finish the show was important to me. And, there's a lot of, psychological things that athletes need to be aware of that happen with competing, Again, like I was saying, there was this huge buildup in the show. The show's over. All that excitement and, adrenaline is kind of gone. And there's a lot of athletes that fall into like post-show blues, where they're not competing for anything anymore. So it's like it's over, This means as much to some of these athletes as the Olympics does, for a lot of people. And then it's over, and it's kind of like, well, what's next, So knowing what to do next, I think, is also important, or how to keep yourself motivated, or how to keep your, thinking just beyond the stage.
Yeah, you have important. Like this big picture perspective on it.
Yeah.
You've been bodybuilding for over 12 years.
No, I've been doing personal training for about 12 years, and kind of making my way out of it. And bodybuilding I did for about 4 or 5 years, competitively, like competing on stages and whatnot.
Well, and I think that speaks to a lot of how your perspective is now, because starting as a fitness trainer, you saw the everyday regular people like us, like regular people that aren't looking to compete, but they want to better themselves. How did you get into fitness training, like just in general?
Personal training, I actually got into it from when I was 18 or 17, and I was working at the front desk at a gym as like a floor trainer, where I was just cleaning machines and stuff. And, and then my manager said, hey dude, you're going into college, you should get your personal training certificate, and get your certification. And it's a great way to make some money through college. You can have clients. Instead of making like $10 an hour, you can, the gym I was working at, I think they were kicking back trainers like $30 an hour, So, and also I'm learning a trade that I can use later. So in college, I was doing personal training throughout, and then I also got my bartending license. So when I moved out to California, when I made that decision to come out here, I was going to do one or the other, and or at least I had those options for jobs that are, pretty easy to find, given the right opportunity. So I ended up pursuing the personal training because that opportunity just presented itself so much more. And I love working with people. Like my favorite part about Muscle Icon is meeting new people and working with new athletes. And, so we started this branch of our company, Muscle Icon Media, where we do photo shoots and video shoots and content creation for different athletes and businesses. And then we offer social media marketing services for them as well, Google SEO, all that stuff. And, so I'm definitely the kind of person that loves working with people.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what this is all about. I had this teacher in high school who said, the secret to life is choices, ripples, and ties, which is the choices you make, the ripple effect it has on all these other people, and then the ties and bonds you make with those people. To me, the material stuff, it's great. Like if our company grew and we made tons of money, that'd be awesome. But that's not really what's motivating me to do this. We need money to be able to grow as a company, but I really just want to be able to impact more people. The way I felt when I was competing, I would love for more people to feel that way. The accomplishment you feel, going from feeling like you're not the person that could ever be on stage, or you don't have what it takes to do this, and then being able to do it, I love that. I think bodybuilding is very undervalued or very underrated by a lot of people. They see the freakish physique on stage, they're like, I don't want to look like that, But no one says you have to take it that far, or you have to be that big, that this lifestyle is attainable to anybody. And, so believing in yourself that you have what it takes, you have all the tools, you have all the leverage on your side, is I think an important message that bodybuilding has the ability to send
Exactly.
Anyway, that's what I want to push more with our brand is,
Yeah.
especially people that are not familiar with bodybuilding. It's a lifestyle that for everybody not everybody ends up leading, to the stage.
Mm-hmm.
They just end up adopting the lifestyle, and living it. And, I think it empowers a lot of people.
Yeah.
And inspires a lot of people too.
On the previous episode, Sabine, it just shows like it saves somebody's life sometimes.
Yeah.
You know? And that's what it's about. Like you pointed out, like you see someone on stage, it's like, dang, like freakish physiques and stuff like that. It's not about that, and I think coming from the outside perspective, it's, that's what we see normally. Like, all right, people are competing and it's more of like a vanity type of thing. Mm-hmm. But what I'm realizing even more in this past year and, interacting with more people that are in the industry, it's so much deeper than that. And the hard work that people put in for this, people have to really understand it. It's so much more than just being on stage, showing off your body, right?
Yeah.
Or obtaining a sponsorship or something. I even said it on previous episodes with John, like the athlete that does bodybuilding arguably is one of the most finely tuned athletes in this world, and people don't consider that. They look at the the person dunking in the basketball court, wide receivers getting that touchdown pass, but the amount of stress that your body goes through just to have that peak conditioning for the stage. People are going to the brink of death to get to that stage. People are fainting. People are starving themselves, draining themselves of water just to stand up on stage to do a posing routine.
Right.
And that doesn't get enough credit, and that's what I see now. I'm one of those that learned more about this through Muscle Icon, through people that I know that are in the industry.
Yeah, what inspired me a lot was when I was backstage at one of my shows and I got to talk to some of the athletes back there and just meet them and say, hey, what do you do for a living? And I talked to one guy, he's a paramedic, has crazy hours, doesn't get the same sleep every night, has got 4 kids. He looked insanely, conditioned to be on stage. And, talking to somebody else, they're a lawyer, they've got all these clients that are, they got to prepare for depositions or whatever, then you've got other people that are doing, I guess you could say the training lifestyle where you're always in the gym might be a little easier, but there's people out there that, they're waking up at 2 a.m, go to the gym, get their workout in, there's, people, there's the backstory behind, when you see this polished physique on stage, you might think, well, they, probably have everything going for them to get there. But a lot of times people don't. They have everything going against them and they're still able to do it. And I think those stories are so inspiring. And I think not enough about bodybuilding from that perspective gets sent out there, so that's why I'm so adamant about people's lives and what they go through off the stage, because the stage physique that you see, it's easy to just pick it apart and say, oh, well, he doesn't look as good as that person. Mm-hmm. Look at that line in his stomach. He doesn't have that, or that guy has no abs or something like that, but dude, look at this hard work everyone's been able to put in, and they're up there and they're getting judged by everybody.
Yeah, that's not easy, man.
Yeah, I can't think of anyone else in the crowd that would be comfortable doing that, at these shows. True. And so I give a lot of credit to all the athletes that have ever stepped on stage, regardless of their placing. It's an incredible feat, and I think it should be it should be very respected, the amount of discipline and effort it goes into, especially with the lives that all these people have. Yeah. And so I give a lot of credit to all the athletes that are able to do that. And we do have a show and we do have a competition, and it is about the person that does look the best and performs the best. And so, again, the competition is the other aspect of this, where you do need to be very competitive and you do need to look good and have the best physique. But on the other hand, it doesn't mean we can't reward some of these people, even people that didn't win, for doing a phenomenal job with overcoming some of the challenges that they go to, because that road is super rocky. It's not smooth. And so another aspect of our show we decided to introduce the first year was the Inspire Award, which is what Sabine and we had another gentleman named David won. And it goes to the person that has an incredibly inspiring fitness journey, or a journey where they used fitness or bodybuilding to overcome certain challenges in their lives and persevere, and hopefully an attempt to inspire other people to seek this path. Especially in the United States, there's a lot of people that are leading lives that, make them unhappy.
Sure.
So with, I guess you could say a lot of things in the United States, especially are here to sell to you. And, especially when you get into the health industry, you start looking at, like, what should I be eating? Should I take this supplement? Do I need this? A lot of things are being marketed to you for you to buy, but it doesn't mean that they're actually going to be healthier for you.
Sure.
So, even when I was training people would ask me, what about this? What about this? And I have to kind of like show people, like, this is what you need to focus on. This all here, don't focus on that, because all it takes is to go on Google and be like, maybe I should be doing this or this, maybe I should be doing keto. Maybe I should be doing paleo, there's a lot to, there's definitely a lot to learn out there. And, I think just being motivated enough and disciplined enough to follow a routine that's going to better your life is really important. And I think bodybuilding, there's a big opportunity to expand that to a lot more people.
Definitely. And if someone's even watching this and they're considering it, I think I'm hoping that they're getting that message that you learn more about yourself more than anything else. And that, to me, is one of the most valuable things. You dive into something that's uncomfortable. You dive into something that teaches you discipline, and you learn another powerful side of yourself.
Yeah.
That's what's helpful.
Yeah, 100%. For all of us at Muscle Icon, I really hope that athletes out there feel valued in all the work they do. And my perspective beforehand was, unless you're winning the show, your value is much lower, and it's all based off of what judges off of their criteria are deciding. It doesn't mean that you're not a valuable person, or you're not a valuable athlete, or you don't have what it takes to make an impact. You absolutely do. It's just, that shouldn't take away from your self-belief. And so that's another reason I really want to emphasize that is, you guys out there that are competing are doing so much more in impacting those around you than you might realize. Focus on that as the heart of what you're doing. Again, if you're competing to get a pro card and to win a show, win the top show at some point in your life, I think that's great.
Yeah.
Having goals is super important, but I think there has to be a point where you decide, why am I doing this? And unfortunately for everybody, it's not going to be number one in the world, so with our company, I'd love to try to create an environment or a platform where people can grow as much off stage, or if not more off stage, than they can with currently what's available right now, winning a show on stage. And most of the most successful athletes out there that are making, they're able to build their empire, their business, their life, and provide for their families, are doing an incredible job of marketing themselves off stage and making the impressions they need to off stage as much as they are on stage. A great example would be Jay Cutler. He's Mr. Olympia. Yeah. He's got that going for him, which is great. He's got 4 of them. Right now, he's built this huge empire off stage, using those wins. Who knows, maybe that Olympia money he won is gone,
True.
So at some point, again, there's got to be a decision where you start thinking about the long term. So I think that's really important. For athletes out there that are just thinking just to the next show, I just need to win this next show, and then some opportunity will come by. Think of the long-term game. There's got to be a long-term plan where you think, okay, I'm going to do this. It's really a checkpoint. It's not a finish line. And then we're going to move
100%.
forward onto this. And we got this plan next. We got this plan next. Having those goals set up along the way is super important. It can be anxiety provoking too, but it can make all the difference and really give you perspective. Because a lot of times it's not till you walk away from something that you gain the perspective of like, man, what was I doing over there? What was I doing with this? Being able to see that bigger picture, I think, for a lot of athletes is huge. Whether they're ready to or not,
Yeah, you're right. I think people, of course, the wins, right? Credential, it gives you more credibility, of course, that makes us automatically think it's going to give you more opportunity. But you're right, it's a checkpoint. So who you are up to this point, you step into, like, you're at another show or you have an idea because of your perspective. You started thinking of not just competing. You started thinking of holding competitions and creating a show.
right.
And it's not, and it's not because you failed at one thing. It's your main purpose in life is to help people, to spread that message. And I think that's why if you sat in a room next to someone else at another competition in the past, you saw it totally differently. You started picking apart the details of the place, and it's like, how much would it cost to start a show like this?
Yeah.
Because you want to give that opportunity to other people, the opportunity that you had, that you felt, that you grew, that you learned from. And I think we resonate a lot as far as talking about the next generation, the next wave of people. I think we're roughly around the same age, and we're at this age of, maybe like people our age or, older than us, you can't necessarily say that we're going to teach people anything, right? It's already established.
Right.
I think what message you held in one of your interviews on YouTube was that, you're trying to speak to the next generation of bodybuilders to kind of to change and kind of rewrite the narrative of what bodybuilding is.
Yeah, because my perspective was very different when I was competing versus when I stepped away from it, and then I was like, and organizing a show. There's just so much, there's so much more that goes into this, and I just feel like a lot of athletes aren't going to realize that until they decide to stop competing. And it's not that I gave up on being a pro bodybuilder or anything. I decided to really step back from competing and say, okay, what am I really good at? Maybe I can double down on this, And it was more of like, I need to come up with a better strategy on what I'm going to do with my time and these next few years in my 20s I got left, Is it going to be to push my legs to, enormous lengths to eventually win, a show? What's the plan after that? There's got to be a next step.
Yeah.
And again, it's not to, and I always have to come back to this because people can kind of come to conclusions on their own about kind of based on what I'm saying. I always got to come back. I don't want to minimize anyone's victory or anyone's win on stage.
Of course. I
think it's incredible. And, and that's one side of the competition we've got where, it should be very prestigious, once you get that win, especially if it's like, through 100 athletes, I think it's incredible.
It definitely is an honor, right? To be able to win.
And, when I think of a muscle icon, I think of, I'm reminded of that person that kind of comes into the gym and everyone is like instantly wanting to work a little harder, and they're like, wow, look at this guy, or look at this woman, like they're just, they're like helping people in the gym, they're helping lift people up, someone that does that really well, I think, is like Dwayne Johnson, Like I saw him give this most heartfelt happy birthday on his Instagram recently, Someone that's able to use their success to elevate other people around them. To me, that is awesome.
Yeah.
And that's what I really hope for anyone that comes to compete is, or anyone that ends up winning our show, is that they're also wanting to do that, or they also see that potential. to make such a difference. And so, the more shows we have, the goal is to grow the circuit of shows, be able to offer more opportunities for people to compete on stage and showcase their hard work and showcase the ability to overcome challenges and still make it to the stage. I think that's an incredible feat to go through, but also be able to offer more on the back end. You know, all right, on the back end, all right, you competed on stage. Maybe you mastered your posing, you got your, routine down, your conditioning, your food, your nutrition, all the stuff that goes into it. But now you're also learning how to market yourself, how to turn those followers into customers.
True.
There's a whole other path that is available that I think most athletes don't see because they're so focused on the stage. When you're competing, you kind of have to be. You got to be hyper focused on
tunnel vision.
Yeah, like all those guys that think like bodybuilding's like a vanity sport. Like I guess you could say it is, but these guys that are flexing their abs in the mirror every chance they get, they pass by a department store mirror, they're like checking out their tricep. You almost like fall into that habit because you're just unknowingly testing out other lighting, or like how am I going to look? This is what the judges are going to look at. You start thinking of, what they're going to think when they see that. But again, it's a lot of this is a perspective, and so having the right perspective for yourself, I think, is really important. That's where the psychology comes into it, where you're not putting so much emphasis onto one thing. Mm-hmm.
And my question question to you would be, had you not competed, would you have seen things the way you see it now?
That's a good question. Things in terms of
this
sport.
Yeah, or the perspective of the industry and like what you want to give to athletes. I personally don't think that you would have seen it this way unless you actually went through it yourself and you competed. Yeah,
it's kind of interesting you mentioned that, because when I first got into personal training, I was taught the guy who was kind of running the gym at the time was really into functional fitness, like Mark Verstegen, Mike Boyle, like some of these guys, where they're using TRX and battle ropes and kettlebells, it was huge. That was like really new when I started. And I was taught that bodybuilding was very outdated and very, kind of like meathead type of like path to take. Yeah. And it's all about just looking this way, and you just get obsessed with your looks over functionality, which I found out much later that wasn't true. And it, what initially got me to try to do it is someone else in my gym who wasn't a trainer. And back then I considered, if you're a trainer, you've got all these things you're responsible for, So I had clients asking me like, how does, I think Thor had come out with Chris Hemsworth, and it was like, how does he get those abs? Like, and then I met this guy who had competed on stage. He showed me his photo. I was like, man, that's awesome. And it's like, you know what? I'm a trainer. If I am telling people how to get in shape like this, I should probably know how to do it myself. And so I kind of looked at it initially as a challenge for me. Like, let me see how far this knowledge is going to go, that I've got in terms of how to get a six pack. Mm-hmm. And initially I was trying to train like a CrossFit athlete, and it just didn't work. Not that, again, not to say that CrossFit's not useful in that regard, but there was one good friend of mine, Mustafa. He was in the gym, and he had won Mr. California, and so he's very familiar with the bodybuilding world. And he was like, he saw me like racing around the gym, going from one machine to the next machine to the next machine. I was like doing circuit training. He's like stopped me. He's like, whoa! He's like, what are you doing? Focus on one or two things. That's it. And then I started pursuing, started researching what some of these other competitors do and some of these other athletes do, and thinking of this as a different goal. And, and then things started to become a lot more clear. Okay. Like, and the respect I had, the value I had, not that I didn't respect these guys on stage before, but I just saw it as a whole different perspective. Yeah. And, I didn't look at these freakish physiques as the same way I did. I looked at it as like artwork that these guys are trying to create, and they're chiseling out different aspects of that physique every time they go to the gym. And it's a different kind of discipline, which is incredible. And if more people could see that, I think it could has the potential to grow the sport so much more. And and that's something I really want with our brand. I want people that are not into this, even fans, to look at this and see this other side. Like, wow, that guy has my job and has my number of kids and is doing that. That's incredible, you know?
Wow.
Or that person was 300 pounds and now they're like 175 on stage, shredded. Or, you know, so-and-so, whatever type of adversity you can think of, or, challenge that person has. Like the other gentleman that won our Inspire Award for the athletes has had like 2 heart surgeries. I think he had like double heart transplant, it was on death's door, still, showed up, competed, and, is still inspiring all these other people,
Yeah.
Like Chris Dim was saying this at our show, I thought it was so great. Everyone's got their own excuses of, I'm too old, I'm too overweight, or, I can't run anymore, my knees hurt, or something like that. And, not to minimize anyone's, difficulties out there, but his message was never too old,
Nice.
Never too overweight, never too short, too tall. You can do it. And, believing in yourself, number one, is the first step. And then, just focusing on the most achievable thing you can do next, and just continuing that next. What else can I do? What else can I do? And you don't have to see the whole path. You're not going to. You just need to see the next step. And that's one thing I learned in doing this show is every person I met opened up another door for me.
Yeah.
I met so-and-so, they introduced me to this person, they introduced me to that person. And there's all these corners I'm turning each time that happens that open up more possibilities. And the show we had this past year would have been nothing if I had just stayed at home on Instagram. Like going out there, meeting people and creating connections. That's how you make it happen, and
100%.
Seeing that opportunity, and also knowing that few people are going to try to do that. There's a lot more people like me out there that are going to put themselves in a position where they can succeed, or that they can get opportunities, versus the person that's just waiting for them to come to them.
Wow.
It's not going to come to you the way you think it is, like I thought it was when I was competing. You have to be willing to go out there and put yourself in front of potential rejection or failure, and keep going past that, after that. Keep pursuing the dream, no matter what. Not everyone has the same vision you do. Keep pursuing the goal, no matter what. And if you're adamant enough and you're determined enough, you will get there 100%. I'm a firm believer in that.
100%, man. We got a show coming up. What are we doing?
Yeah, so I was, one thing with California events, especially in LA, and we are the South Bay Championships is our, kind of main show that we have. It seemed like, especially kind of going off of last year, with COVID in place, or I should say, I don't want to edit that out. I don't know. Maybe it got censored on social media, but with the pandemic and everything, and it seems like there's new social restrictions that keep changing. Initially I was waiting to see kind of what happened with how that was going to impact events and venues, but I think I've got a fairly good idea of where it's going to go. Our next projected show we're shooting for summer 2022, so July, nice. August, around there, and hopefully a second one in November next year.
Got it.
I'm actually going to be in Las Vegas in a couple of weeks to maybe check out some venues, and maybe we can do a second one in Vegas and one in California. And the goal will be eventually to have shows throughout the country where we can offer the same thing: opportunity, some prize money, a great experience, and a feeling of community and competition. You know, good, healthy, intense competition, but where it's not all about the title and then moving on. It's not about, okay, I won this year. It's about trying to grow these athletes, you know, especially the people that win, trying to grow some of these personalities and impact more people in a positive way. And, you know, it's like the choices, ripples, and ties create a good, great ripple effect where people see the show, see someone that did it against all odds and was still able to do it, and then have people think, man, you know, this is something I can do. Or, you know, show people that, you know, anything is possible.
Definitely.
So,
definitely. Yeah. Where can people keep tabs just so that they're kind of updated on Muscle Icon?
Yeah, so you can check out our Instagram page. It's at Muscle Icon. We also have a media page at Muscle Icon Media. And then if our website is muscleicon.com, it's all Muscle Icon, you know, .com or Instagram. If you have any questions or you want to reach out to us individually, you can reach me at dan@muscleicon.com. And I'll be happy to answer all your questions. And thanks so much, Jordan. This is great.
Sounds good, man. Thank you so much.